Do you want to be taken seriously when you're viewing properties? Yeah, I'm talking to you, all those first time buyers out there who are finding it difficult. At the end of the day, it's always difficult to find properties, right? You look on Zoopla, you look on Rightmove, and it's trying to figure out. But once you actually find the property that you're interested in, what next? Estate agents need to know that you're serious. You need to have a way of viewing the properties. You need to have a way of comparing the properties. Now, basically, I'm going to talk you through all the steps that you need to kind of be aware of that not everybody tells you about. And who's going to tell you? I mean, I remember when I bought in my 20s, none of my friends were buying. My family, some of them I didn't want to know, and the ones that I were happy to know had done it years and years ago and couldn't really help. So I kind of just sort of bundled along and figured out in the end. But I want to tell you about the lessons that I learned so you don't have to. And then the other thing is, since 2020, I've been a mortgage advisor, and I've had quite a few of my clients that ask for help. So I created, initially it was just like an Excel viewer spreadsheet, and it was a great way. I once had a client that visited 7 properties in a day, and when I asked her about them, she couldn't remember, enough to be able to compare. So I created this spreadsheet so she could, put in the link to the actual property, the online link to the actual property, and then her comments. And I said, go to each property and assess them on the same things, and then you can do a comparison. So over the years, I've created several different things in order to help first-time buyers, and that's kind of what I wanted to talk to you about. So basically, I'm hoping this video isn't all over the place. I hope that it is concise and it is helpful. But the first thing I wanted to talk about is, how do you know which is the right property for you? Rather than spending time viewing a load of properties and not sure which one's the right one, you should have a list of criteria before you even go and view the property, so you can actually filter down the properties. The other thing is, you need to be aware of the situation. I once tried to negotiate on this flat, and I didn't know at the time, and only found out later on, that the estate agent was also interested in the property. So they weren't passing on the information to the sellers, and it just wasted everybody's time. They should have just said up front. So anyway, there are a lot of things that you need to be aware of. So let's go through them. The first thing I think is really, really important is decide what you want. Now, a lot of people, it is all about location, which is fine. At the end of the day, when we bought this house, it was all about being in an area where there were good schools, because at that point we had children. In my 20s, when I first bought my flat, it was all about, one, I wanted a really nice size bedroom. Two, I wanted like a second bedroom because I wasn't the tidiest person. And I thought if people were coming around, I could stuff everything into that second bedroom, just lock the door and forget about it. So everybody thought I was really, really tidy, but everything was just in the second bedroom. And then I learnt my lesson with that. Even though there were spacious rooms, they were actually in a block, a 4-story block. And service charge and ground rent was quite high because it was a leasehold property. I didn't understand about freehold and leasehold and things like that, so I did get burned when I tried to remortgage and couldn't until I had to pay to extend the lease. So that was an expensive lesson. The next thing was, when I bought my second flat, I opted for a maisonette, because I thought to myself, okay, getting a maisonette rather than a flat in a block. A maisonette is the top half or the bottom half of a house. I thought that would be better because ground rent was what's called peppercorn, which is no ground rent at all. and the service charge was literally 50% of the building insurance, which was amazing, because the flat I'd had before that was in a 4-story, I had to pay the communal area, got maintained by a gardener. I had to pay a contribution to that. As I said, even though I was on the ground floor, when the roof had to get repaired, we all had to chip in, and it became more and more expensive as the years went on. But it was a nice spacious flat, so you've got to weigh up the pros and cons. But that is why a viewer's checklist is absolutely really helpful, because what you can do is you can put in that viewer's checklist exactly what's important to you, and then when you're looking from property to property to property, you can actually assess them and know what there is. The other thing is, when you physically get there, don't get overwhelmed, easier said than done, or overexcited by actually viewing properties, because what the thing is, if you have like the checklist, you can literally just follow the list. So you go into the kitchen, you follow, you know, I once, one of the flats that I bought didn't have hot water. So I didn't even think of turning on the taps to check that there was hot water, that the boiler was working, all that good stuff. I just didn't think about it. I just walked into the flat and I absolutely loved it. It had really nice big windows. The light was flooding in and everything. And yeah, I just loved it. It was only later on I found out it didn't have double glazing. It had single glazing. So I had to pay to get that done. As I said, it had an electric shower, so that was hot water, but the bath, all the sinks, so the sink in the bathroom and the sink in the kitchen, all only had cold water. They had both taps, but both taps gave us cold water, which wasn't good at all. But all I'm trying to say is, when you're looking at properties and you're viewing properties, there are so many different ways that you can do it. The other thing I'd like to say is, when you are going to see the estate agent initially, the questions that you ask them can really make a difference to how seriously they take you. If you ask questions like, how long has the property been on the market? What is the motivation for why the seller is selling? One, it not only helps you with your negotiating later on down the line, but it shows the estate agent that you know a little bit about what's going on, and you're not just a first-time buyer that doesn't know anything and they could take advantage of. The other big tip, and this is my mortgage advisor hat on here, is when you are looking to do the decision in principle, which is basically, you know, in principle, how much you can borrow, go with your budget amount, not the maximum you can get, because going with your budget amount means that you can negotiate within your budget. Going with the maximum you can afford, if it's a lot more, which it is in some situations, then you lose your bargaining, because you'll go for a property, you'll want to do sort of a 5%, maybe a cheeky 10% discount, and then they'll see from your decision in principle, oh, that person can afford whatever, and the estate agent, because they want to get the most commission they can, and it's off the sales price, will go to the seller and say, do you know what, they can actually afford more. So that is something to be aware of. But I created the first time buyer companion, and it includes everything when it comes to estate agents. There's 3 sections, and I've got other videos where I'll talk about the rest. But in the estate agent section, there's a questionnaire of questions to ask the estate agent before you view, during the view, and after the view. There's even an AI prompt for working out the best negotiation email. There's a viewing checklist, and this is cross-referenced with the viewing log, so you can note down every property that you've viewed. There's a mini guide on how to actually search for properties in the first place. There is a bonus depending on, obviously, when you get the companion, but the bonus is, if you are looking at an auction property, there's a guide in there. If you're looking at people who are selling privately, not for an estate agent, also how that works. So I'll pin it in the comments, the first time buyer companion, but it really is But the reason I built it is so first time buyers don't feel alone. I know what it was like when I went out and viewed my own properties by myself, because, you know, the situation I was in, as I mentioned earlier, and this companion covers it all. And with it, it will give you confidence and you'll feel like I really do get this. So check it out, and I hope it helps you. And yeah, take care.